Welcome to our next installment of Coffee with a Counselor, our little web series we've designed at Cristina, Panaccione and Associates to help you feel more comfortable asking us questions or getting involved in the therapy process. So today we are meeting at Blue Canary Coffee House, and I'm sitting down and talking with one of my newest counselors, Susan Rosemeier. So Susan, tell me a little bit about what your ideal type of client would be.
So oftentimes I would like to work with those individuals who usually have everything all together. Their lives are pretty perfect, and then something happens, whether that be in their personal life or work life, and they realize, oh, maybe I don't know how to deal with this situation, when normally everything in my life kind of all works out. So that could be something like a death in the family, or maybe they get really bad news and they don't know how to handle that. And so sometimes talking to someone who's not a friend or a coworker or a family member can really help them to work through those sorts of situations. But it's really that person who normally knows how to handle situations, but this one, they don't.
So work-life balance is a big thing. We're hearing a lot about it in the news and social media. What do you think an employer, a friend, a coworker, a family member could look for? What signs would somebody be exhibiting when they might need some kind of intervention?
So some symptoms that you might notice yourself if you're dealing with it, or that a family member might notice, is increased fatigue. So just being tired all the time. Even if you're getting technically 8 hours of sleep, you still just feel exhausted. Something else would be more stress and anxiety. So you just feel like you can't relax. Maybe you feel like you're always kind of on edge or waiting for the phone to ring. Maybe you're waiting for work and you always have your phone in your back pocket. And every time it vibrates, you know, it's probably something with work and I feel like I have to answer it. So just that feeling of not being able to fully relax and be in the moment. And something else might be you feel like you're reacting more impulsively to maybe a spouse or your kids. You just snap back at them. So being more on edge and maybe a little bit of anger where they didn't used to be that anger. And maybe your kids are starting to show some behaviors that they notice some anxiety going on. You just feel like something's off. So those might be some symptoms to look for and maybe say, hey, I notice these things are going on. Are you okay? And really those symptoms are showing that something is off, like your balance, things in your life are off. And balance for everyone looks a little bit different. So what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for another. So one person might be able to work 80 hours a week and still have, enough family time. And kids are good, wife is good, life is good. But another person, they can't keep up that pace. It doesn't work for them. So it's really about finding what works for you and not necessarily comparing yourself to everyone else. So oftentimes what we find is when that balance is off, it's because their actions and their behaviors aren't matching up with their values. And really the things that are important to them. And so therapy can help you find that balance and find out what those values are and what's important to you, and learning how to live out those values.
Sure. It sounds like personal wellness is just becoming this huge movement in mental health and physical health. What are some interventions or skills that you give people to achieve balance? Sure.
Well, first of all, we'll really explore what are those values. And so it's exploring, well, what did you learn growing up? What did you see from your parents? And maybe contrasting that with, well, does that work for you now? Is that what you want your life to look like? Comparing and contrasting. And then also establishing boundaries with other people. And what do your boundaries look like? And being able to say no and say yes in the appropriate times and what works for you. So those are some interventions that we might use.
And changing the labels too. You're not being selfish, you're taking care of yourself.
Correct. And oftentimes it feels like we can't say no to things because it's providing us with something or it's providing our family with something. So why would I cut down on hours when I'm getting money for that? And the money is going to my family and my kids. But ultimately, we're not, we might be harming them in the process of doing that. And we don't see those outcomes until later on. And so we get the instant gratification of money, but in the long term, there can be negative effects on everyone else around us.
Right. So we've been talking a lot about symptoms that would be exhibited if somebody's going through stress. What are some things that you can offer employers or companies to either help maintain health or do interventions to restore health and balance?
Sure. I think offering them the option of short-term therapy. Oftentimes when we think of mental health or therapy or counseling, we think of long-term. And dream analysis and laying down on couches. It doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
Sometimes it's really just one situation that's making us stuck. So being able to offer your employees somewhere to go for 4 to 8 sessions that's saying, hey, I noticed something's going on and you deserve to take care of yourself. And oftentimes the employer notices because their work is lacking and they're bringing stuff in with them from the outside, which happens to all of us. So being able to say, hey, I care about you as an employee. I noticed something is off because, what you used to be able to do is lacking. And I notice a difference. So what's going on and can I offer you a place to go, a place to talk about it that's outside of work and that will give you a place to work through those things.
Do you have any skills that you would teach to maybe a group of people for stress management or anxiety management?
Oh yeah, well, a big thing right now is mindfulness training, and how that works is basically teaching us and individuals how to be in the moment, and so they're not necessarily thinking about the stuff that's going on at home while they're at work, and it gives them some tools and skills to come back and be at work again.
Right.
So when their mind starts to drift, and they start to think about those things, and they start to get stuck, and some anxiety symptoms start to come out, whether that be a little bit of hand shaking, they can't focus on their work. We can teach them skills to be able to ground themselves and be in the moment and be able to leave the stuff at home and leave that for later. So they can really focus on work and making sure that they're on top of things.
Right. And it sounds like putting in a little bit of effort up front to help give these people these skills is going to improve things long term, not just for the company,
Absolutely.
but for the well-being of everyone around them.
Yep. And teaching people that it's okay to ask for help. Oftentimes they feel like they can't, especially like if you're in a management or leadership position, you feel like you have to have it all together all the time.
Yes.
And if no one takes the time to say, hey, you need to help yourself too, it can be really difficult to learn how to ask for that help.
Leading by example.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
So what are some reasons that people should choose you over other therapists in the area?
I think one of the most important things is making a connection with the client and being empathetic. A lot of times I hear from clients that they'll go see someone and they've had really bad experiences because they feel like that person doesn't care. And they'll kind of sit and stare at them and make them talk the whole time. And I definitely have more of a conversation style. I want to make you feel warm and comfortable and like you can talk. And you don't have to feel like I'm going to prescribe you something to do to make you better. Because ultimately, the person that I'm seeing is their own best expert. And really what I'm there to do is facilitate and find out those tools that they already have to help them reach where they want to go and their goals.
Tap into strengths that they already have.
Absolutely. Strengths. Yeah.
They don't realize it's already
Right.
there. So it sounds like another piece of this work-life balance is your actual life. What are some things that you see going on at home with some of these people, or problems that you see coming out of families that you've worked with in the past?
Sure. Like we said, oftentimes you'll see symptoms come out in the family, whether that be the kids or the spouse. And maybe you'll see the spouse being more needy towards, wanting attention and trying to reach out for that. And that maybe they don't know how to ask for that attention. So they start, there starts to be more conflict. When really what they're wanting is that attention.
Right.
And a lot of times kids can pick up on the anxiety and attention between mom and dad. So that comes out in their behaviors. And sometimes they'll do things that they've never had before, such as skipping school or sneaking out or trying to find ways to get attention when they're not able to at home otherwise. And so things we can do with the family, we can meet as a family, we can also meet individually with the kids or do couple days counseling, kind of work through where are those symptoms happening and what relationships can we work on to alleviate some of those symptoms. Because the family is made up of subsystems. So the relationships between mom and dad and the siblings and one sibling and mom and the other sibling and dad and all those things are related. So we can really find some of the root causes in those relationships and try to work on those.
Right. I don't know if you can tell, but we both come out of family-based therapies where we have worked in the homes with families in a whole setting and split into the subsystems. One of the things that I hear a lot of from clients when they call in, they're asking, well, is it okay for you to see us as a couple and our child, or is it okay for you to see the child and us as a family?
Right.
Do you have any problems with splitting things up and working with each subsystem?
Oh, not at all. That's never a problem. And sometimes people are concerned about their confidentiality and how does that work when you're seeing the whole family, but you're seeing people separately as well. And what I always emphasize is that every single session is confidential. So what one individual tells me, I'm not going to bring up in a session with someone else. If they would like to bring it up, that's fine. But as far as everything being confidential, it'll be, based around each separate session. If I feel like there's a topic that needs to be brought up when everyone's all together, I'll encourage that person to bring it up. But I will never break that privacy. So absolutely, we can work with whoever in the family as well as the different subsystems.
What if someone's not quite ready to talk about something with someone else? How do you approach that? Do you just force them to, or what do you do?
Definitely don't force them. I would never do that. It's more about maybe that one-on-one counseling and creating that rapport and helping them to feel comfortable, even sharing it with me before I would ever have them share it with someone else. And so I wouldn't make them tell anyone until they're ready. Maybe that's something they really have to process by themselves first before it needs to come up with anyone else. So I might encourage it, but I would never force it.
So therapy isn't a sink or swim kind of thing with you.
Right, definitely not.
We learn.
Yes.
Fair enough. Do you notice any other elements that might be involved with a work-life balance, bringing in other values or other experiences into the therapy sessions?
Sure. Something that's becoming more prominent in the counseling world and is becoming more emphasized is spirituality and faith. And it used to be in the past, psychology and this kind of whole world was very separate from church and religion and faith. But now we're finding that it matters. To some people it matters more than others. And so sometimes people are afraid to bring that part up. It's something that's kind of taboo to talk about. And so coming to see me, we can absolutely talk about those things and bring that into the session. Because oftentimes someone's values are connected to really what they believe in their worldview. And so oftentimes, we'll hit on the biological and the physical and the psychological, but we forget to touch on the spiritual. When that's absolutely an important element. Especially when we're dealing with loss or trauma, and how to reconcile that with what is my meaning in life, and what do I really believe. So that definitely comes up a lot.
Gives life meaning.
Absolutely.
It's a real balance between the mind, body, and soul.
Yes.
All around wellness.
Right.
So how would you deal with like a family unit that has different spiritual beliefs?
It really depends on the situation. If mom and dad believe the same thing and one of their children or more of their children believe differently, or if mom and dad have completely different beliefs, or if mom and dad are divorced and dad believes one thing and the kids go to visit mom and she believes another. So it really is going to depend a little bit on the context of the situation. In general, we encourage respect for the head of the household and what they believe. So the children should respect that. They don't necessarily have to hold to the same values and beliefs. But as long as they live with, under that roof, they need to respect those values. And then individually, we can process through, well, what do they believe and why is that different? And how can they live their life according to those values while still maybe living with mom or dad?
So in terms of faith-based counseling, what are some things that you would do? Would you encourage prayer, encourage mindfulness? What would you do for somebody? Specifically for faith-based.
Sure, and that often, again, depends on, well, which denomination or which faith do they adhere to. So I'm going to ask ahead of time, what are you comfortable with? What would you like to see me bring in? Is that Bible verses or prayer? What do you feel comfortable doing in session? And if it's something that I'm not an expert in, if it's not what I'm familiar with, I'm going to recommend or refer you to a clergy in that denomination or that faith, and maybe even talk to them and kind of get some feedback from them and what they would recommend that I do in session. So it's really tailored to the person that I'm working with and what they're comfortable with.
It sounds like your general approach to therapy is very collaborative with all aspects of someone's life. It's taking a whole picture of them.
Yes, because everyone is so unique and so different. And even if they have maybe technically the same issue, it's going to look different based on their circumstances and their situation. And same with the style of therapy. There are so many that you can't really just pick one to fit every single person. So it's really going to be a combination of what works best. And trying things on. If it doesn't work, moving on to something else.
Right. Very good. So if you would like to schedule an appointment with Susan, give her a call. You can reach me at 412-439-1416, and I'll get you set up as fast as we can. Thanks, Susan.
Thank you.